Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and wondered, why do I feel lost? Even when everything seems fine, you wake up, you check your phone, you scroll through other people's lives, their smiles, their achievements, and somewhere, deep inside, you feel the quiet ache of comparison. You move through your day, half distracted, half present, pulled by invisible strings, notifications, worries, expectations. And then, when the day ends, you tell yourself you'll start over tomorrow. But somehow, tomorrow feels the same as yesterday. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you don't care. It's that your mind has been trained to chase, react, and seek comfort instead of control. You've built habits that pull you away from peace without even realizing it. And what if, just what if, the answer to all this chaos isn't out there, but inside you? That's where Stoicism begins. Not as a cold philosophy carved in ancient marble, but as a living fire inside those who refuse to be ruled by their emotions. The Stoics believed that peace is not found by escaping the world, but by mastering the mind that perceives it. They understood something that modern life has made us forget, that freedom begins where reaction ends. So imagine this, it's Monday morning. You wake up, the same way you always do, heavy, restless, unfocused. But this time something feels different. You've had enough. Enough of anxiety stealing your mornings. Enough of anger controlling your days. Enough of chasing validation that never satisfies. You decide just for 1 week to live like a Stoic. Not because it's easy, but because you want peace more than comfort. Because you want discipline more than distraction. Because you want to see what happens when you finally stop running from yourself. The first day feels strange. You try to slow your thoughts, but they rush like a storm. Every little thing irritates you. The traffic, the noise, the endless pull of your phone. You begin to notice how restless your mind truly is. You've always thought life was stressful. But now you see, it's not life. It's you. It's the lack of mastery over your own reactions. That realization hurts, but it's also your first victory. Because awareness is the beginning of transformation. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You repeat that line to yourself as you go through the day. You have power over your mind. You let it echo, and slowly you start to feel something shift. That night, as you lie in bed, you think back on your day, how many times you reacted without thinking, how easily emotions took over. And you make a decision. This week, you will take your mind back. You will master your inner world. But here's the truth no one tells you. Mastery doesn't begin with strength. It begins with stillness. The Stoics taught that the mind, like a wild horse, cannot be tamed through force, only through observation. The more you watch your thoughts without judgment, the quieter they become. So, your first Stoic habit begins in silence. No phone in the morning. No racing into the noise of the world. You wake, you breathe, and you sit with your thoughts. No distractions, no escape. And for the first time in a long while, you meet yourself. You realize how loud your mind has been, how rarely you've been alone with your own emotions. At first, it's uncomfortable. The silence feels heavy, almost unbearable. But as minutes pass, something profound happens. The noise begins to settle. The fog in your thoughts starts to clear, and beneath it all, you feel a strange calm. You begin to see that most of your suffering comes not from reality itself, but from your interpretation of it. That's the first Stoic revelation. You cannot control the world. You can only control the meaning you give it. As the day goes on, this idea follows you. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and instead of anger, you watch your reaction rise like a wave, then fall back into stillness. A coworker makes a careless comment, and instead of letting it ruin your mood, you remind yourself, this moment cannot control me unless I allow it to. That's the quiet power of Stoicism. It doesn't remove life's problems. It removes their control over you. By the end of the first day, you begin to sense something new. A distance between you and your emotions. A space where choice lives. You realize that freedom doesn't mean doing whatever you want. Freedom means not being a slave to what you feel. That night, Before sleeping, you write a single line in your journal. Today, I practiced control. And though it seems small, you know something inside you has begun to change. Because the moment you stop blaming the world and start mastering your response, that's the moment you begin to live like a Stoic. This is the beginning of transformation. One habit has already begun to take root: awareness. And from awareness, every other habit will grow. But the path ahead won't be easy, because mastering your mind means confronting the parts of yourself you've been running from. The fears, the anger, the doubt. They all wait for you in the silence. And as the next morning comes, you'll face the second Stoic habit, the one that teaches you how to face pain, not avoid it. Because pain is not your enemy. It's your teacher. Have you ever wondered why pain always feels personal? Why some people crumble under it, while others rise, almost reborn from the same flames? Here's a truth few ever realize. Pain isn't the enemy. It's the doorway. The very thing you spend your life avoiding. Heartbreak, loss, rejection, failure. That's what holds the secret to your strength. If you stay with me till the end of this story, you'll discover a Stoic secret. One that ancient warriors, emperors, and philosophers used to transform every wound into wisdom. It's the kind of lesson that doesn't just change how you think, it changes how you live. Now back to our story. It's the second morning of your Stoic week. You wake up earlier this time. No phone, no rush, just that strange, heavy quiet again. But today, the silence feels different. It's not as heavy, not as foreign. You've begun to make peace with it. You've started to see your thoughts, not as enemies, but as passing clouds. But the real test comes uninvited. Halfway through the day, something happens. A small argument, a piece of bad news, or maybe a memory that hits too hard. Whatever it is, it shakes you. You feel anger building, frustration clawing at your chest. That familiar voice returns. Why me? Why now? You feel it rising, the need to react, to lash out, to control the uncontrollable. But this time, you remember the words from yesterday. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You take a breath, and in that moment, you do something revolutionary. You don't run. You don't react. You stay. You face the discomfort. You feel the pain, but you don't let it define you. This right here is the second Stoic habit, embracing discomfort as a path to strength. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." The Stoics believed that comfort weakens character, but adversity, faced with courage, purifies the soul. Think about it. Every scar you carry, every painful chapter of your life. Wasn't that where you learned the most about yourself? The heartbreak that taught you resilience. The failure that taught you patience. The loss that taught you gratitude. Pain doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. It strips away the noise and leaves behind what's real, the parts of you that can't be broken. You start to understand something profound. Pain is not a punishment. It's feedback, a signal from life saying, there's something here you need to see. So you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That's when everything shifts. Later that night, you walk outside. The air is cold, the world quiet. You think about the day, the anger, the discomfort, the urge to escape it. But you didn't. You faced it, and for the first time, it didn't control you. That feels like victory. Not a loud, triumphant victory, but a silent, powerful one. You realize that every moment of pain you survive adds a layer of armor to your mind. You don't need to avoid pain, you need to understand it. That's what the Stoics did. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, war, loss, and yet wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." You whisper that line under your breath. What stands in the way becomes the way. The words feel heavy, ancient, eternal, as if they were meant for this very moment in your life. By now, you begin to notice something deeper. You're not just learning Stoicism, you're living it. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity. Every hardship, a teacher. Every emotion, a mirror. And this habit, this practice of turning pain into power, begins to reshape your entire mindset. You stop fearing hard days. You stop chasing easy ones. because you finally see that growth and comfort never coexist. By the end of the day, your journal reads a new line. Today, I faced pain and it bowed before me. And that's when you realize true strength isn't the absence of pain. It's the courage to feel it without letting it own you. Tomorrow, a new habit awaits, one that will challenge you to let go not of pain but of control. Because the third Stoic habit teaches a truth that most people never learn. You can't control everything, but you can control how you dance with chaos. Have you ever noticed how much of your pain comes from trying to control what you never could? You plan your future. You cling to outcomes. You expect people to act the way you imagine. And when they don't, frustration builds like a storm inside you. But what if I told you the secret to peace isn't in gaining more control? It's in learning to surrender it. That's what the Stoics discovered. That serenity begins not when the world bends to your will, but when your will stops fighting the world. It's now the third day of your Stoic week. You've tasted the stillness of awareness. You've felt the sting of pain and learned not to run from it. But today brings a new challenge, one that strikes deeper than both. You wake up feeling lighter, almost hopeful. The morning feels calm, but life has a way of testing the lessons you claim to have learned. Maybe it's an unexpected message, a piece of bad news, or plans suddenly falling apart. It's small at first, but it disrupts your rhythm. You feel it again, that instinct to fix, to argue, to control. But somewhere inside, a quieter voice speaks. It says, "Let it be." You don't like that voice at first. Feels weak, passive, like giving up. But the more you listen, the more you realize it isn't weakness at all. It's wisdom, because every time you try to control what you can't, you lose control of yourself. Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, built his entire philosophy on this idea. He said, "Some things are in our control, and some are not." It sounds simple, but if you truly lived by that one sentence, you'd free yourself from most of your suffering. So you begin to test it. Throughout the day, whenever something doesn't go your way, you ask a single question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, you act with calm strength. If the answer is no, you release it and protect your peace. It's not easy. Letting go never is. But you begin to notice a strange freedom forming in the space where frustration used to live. Someone criticizes you, but you don't defend. The weather ruins your plans, but you don't complain. Traffic slows you down, but you don't fight it. You simply breathe and move on. You begin to see how much energy you've wasted on things that never needed your attention. And suddenly you have energy left for what actually matters, your growth, your purpose, your mind. By afternoon, you realize something profound. Life has never been about control. It's about response. When you stop trying to force the world to fit your expectations, you start to experience it as it is, raw, unpredictable, and beautiful. You no longer demand that things go your way. You simply walk your path, steady and calm, no matter how the ground shifts beneath you. That night, you sit again in silence. You think about how much lighter the day felt. Not because it was easier, but because you didn't cling so tightly. And you write in your journal, "Today, I released what I never owned." That single line becomes a new kind of peace. Because once you stop fighting the uncontrollable, the world stops feeling like an enemy. It becomes what it always was, a teacher. You finally understand what the Stoics meant when they said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most of your suffering was never from what happened. It was from the stories you told yourself about what should have happened. By the end of this day, a deep stillness settles within you. You're not trying to win against life anymore. You're learning to move with it. Tomorrow, a new lesson waits. A habit that doesn't just strengthen your mind, it softens your heart. Because the fourth Stoic habit teaches something rare in our world today. Gratitude not as a feeling but as a discipline. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to see what's missing, and how hard it is to see what's already there? You tell yourself you'll be happy when things get better, when you earn more, when they apologize, when life finally gives you a break. But here's the truth the Stoics discovered centuries ago. Happiness doesn't wait on better days. It begins when you learn to see today differently. If you've made it this far, you've already learned to face pain, to release control, to breathe through chaos. But all that strength means nothing without appreciation. Because gratitude isn't softness. It's power. It's the quiet decision to stop chasing and start noticing. It's the fourth morning of your Stoic week. You wake up before the sun, the world still wrapped in silence. You sit at the edge of your bed, and for a brief moment, you feel that old emptiness again. The familiar whisper that says, something's missing, but today you decide to challenge it. You look around the room, the faint light through the window, the rhythm of your breath, the simple comfort of being alive. You start naming the things you never thanked before. Not out loud, but in your mind. The roof above me, the breath inside me, the people who stayed, the lessons from the ones who didn't. Slowly, you feel a warmth rising where restlessness used to live. This is not the shallow gratitude you post about. This is the Stoic kind, intentional, grounded, disciplined. Seneca once wrote, "He who receives a benefit with gratitude repays the first installment on his debt." The Stoics saw gratitude not as a fleeting feeling, but as a moral obligation, a way of living that keeps you anchored when the waves of life grow wild. Throughout the day, you begin to practice this discipline. When something goes wrong, you search for what's still right. When someone tests your patience, you remember the people who bring you peace. When plans fall apart, you look for the lesson that stands beneath the ruins. You start to notice how gratitude changes your perception. Life hasn't become easier, you've become lighter. Your mind, once consumed by complaint, begins to clear. You no longer see every inconvenience as an attack, but as a reminder of how much you already have. That evening, you walk outside again. The city lights flicker like distant stars. You realize that for the first time in years, you're not thinking about what's next. You're just here. You feel a calm gratitude for every step that brought you to this moment, even the painful ones. You whisper softly to yourself, "Nothing is promised, yet everything is given," and those words become your prayer. Later, in your journal, you write, "Today, I practiced gratitude, not because everything was perfect, but because I chose to see it that way." You understand now that gratitude is not blind optimism. It's clear vision. It sees the full truth of life, the pain, the beauty, the impermanence, and still chooses to smile. That's the discipline the Stoics lived by. Because once you learn to be grateful for the present moment, no loss can truly take peace away from you. And as you drift into sleep, one final thought crosses your mind. If this much can change in 4 days, what would happen if you lived like this forever? Tomorrow, the fifth and final Stoic habit will answer that question. It's the habit that binds all the others together, the one that turns wisdom into purpose. It's about living each day as if it were your last, yet planning as if you'd live forever. Have you ever really stopped and asked yourself, if today were my last day, would I be proud of how I lived it? Most people don't. We move through our days as if they're endless, scrolling, waiting, planning for a future that's never guaranteed. But the Stoics lived with a fire that came from one haunting truth. We are dying every day. To them, this wasn't morbid. It was awakening. Because once you remember that time is limited, you stop wasting it on what doesn't matter. It's the final morning of your Stoic week. You wake up before dawn, and for a long moment you just sit there listening to your own breathing. There's no rush to check your phone, no race to the next distraction. You simply feel the weight of being alive. 7 billion people slept through this same sunrise, but you woke up to see it. You think about the days that passed, how awareness gave you control, how pain became strength, how letting go brought peace, how gratitude built clarity. And now, standing on the edge of this final lesson, you realize something deeper. All of those habits were not about changing your circumstances. They were preparing you for this moment, the moment you begin to truly live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." You repeat those words silently, and they hit different this time. They don't scare you. They steady you. You begin to see how much of your life has been wasted waiting for the right time. You postponed dreams. You held back words you should have said. You lived half alive, assuming there would always be more time. But now you see, there is no more time, only this moment. So you decide. From this point forward, you will live each day deliberately. You will speak truthfully. You will forgive quickly. You will love fully. You will stop hiding behind excuses, because the clock is already ticking. And that's the fifth Stoic habit, memento mori. Remember that you will die and therefore truly live. It's not about fear. It's about focus. When you remember that life is fragile, you stop wasting energy on petty arguments, envy, or regret. You start measuring days not by comfort, but by meaning. You realize that every sunrise is a debt paid to existence, and every action is a choice to honor that gift or waste it. As the day unfolds, you notice everything differently. The sound of rain feels like music. The laughter of a stranger feels sacred. Even silence feels full. You're not chasing anymore, you're present. That night, before sleep, you write your final journal entry. This week, I mastered nothing but myself, and that was enough. You close your eyes knowing that if death came tonight, it would not find you unprepared, because you lived with awareness, faced pain with courage, let go of control, chose gratitude, and walked through your days with purpose. That's what it means to live like a Stoic. Not emotionless, but awake. Not detached from life, but deeply connected to it. And when you live that way, even death loses its power. Because in mastering your mind, you've already conquered everything that can be taken away. So the next time you wake up, remember, you have 7 days, 7 chances, 7 mornings to practice these habits again. But live each as if it's your last, because one of them will be. Let me ask you one last question. If you could truly master your mind, your thoughts, emotions, reactions, what in this world could ever control you again? That's the question the Stoics lived by. Not how to escape life, but how to face it, with calm, courage, and clarity. As your week of Stoicism comes to an end, you look back, not at what changed around you, but what changed within you. It's subtle. You still face the same world, the same people, the same problems. But you move differently now, quieter, steadier, more intentional. You've discovered that real peace was never hiding in perfect conditions. It was hiding in your ability to remain unshaken within imperfect ones. The first habit taught you awareness, to slow down and see your thoughts for what they are. The second showed you that pain, when embraced, becomes power. The third taught you to release control and respond instead of react. The fourth opened your eyes to gratitude, the discipline that turns scarcity into abundance. And the fifth reminded you of the truth you can't outrun. Life is fragile and therefore precious. Each habit alone is powerful. But together they form something unbreakable, the Stoic mind. A mind that sees clearly, feels deeply, but acts wisely. A mind that remains calm in chaos, steady in suffering, humble in success. A mind that doesn't demand an easy life, only the strength to endure whatever comes. As you walk through the world now, things still go wrong. People still disappoint, plans still collapse, pain still visits. But you no longer drown in it. You observe it, learn from it, and move forward with grace. That's what the Stoics meant when they said, "The obstacle is the way," because everything that once felt like a curse can now become your teacher if you let it. You understand that your greatest power was never about control. It was about composure. Not about conquering the world, but about conquering yourself. And as this journey closes, you realize something powerful. You didn't just learn Stoicism. You lived it. You turned philosophy into experience, words into action, reflection into transformation. Now, the question is, will you stop here? Or will you carry these habits beyond this week, into every day that follows? Because if you do, you'll never be the same. You'll live with discipline, think with clarity, and move through chaos with calm. You'll stop chasing peace, because you'll have found it within yourself. That's what mastering your mind truly means. It's not a destination. It's a daily practice. It's the quiet, unshakable strength of someone who knows that while the world may tremble, the mind can remain still. So, the next time life tests you, pause. Remember the habits. Remember the stillness. Remember that freedom begins not when the world changes, but when you do. Because once you master your mind, you master your life.